I now hand the conference over to Mr. Naveen Agrawal, Head Institutional Equities at SKP Securities Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of HEG Limited and SKP Securities to this financial results conference call with the leadership team at HEG Limited. We have with us Mr. Manish Gulati, Executive Director, Mr. Om Prakash Ajmera, Group CFO, and Mr. Gulshan Sakhuja, CFO. We'll have the opening remarks from Mr. Gulati, followed by a Q&A session. Over to you, Mr. Gulati. Thank you.
Yeah. Friends, good afternoon and welcome to our Q2 financial results call for the year 21-22. As you can see, this quarter's profits were higher than the previous quarters and among the best in the industry. Thanks to strong global steel demand, world's crude steel output increased by 7.9% in the first 9 months of this calendar year, including China, while steel production in the rest of the world, excluding China, increased by 15.5%. If we compare China's steel production of Q2 with Q1, there has been a steep decline in steel production from 292 million metric tons level to 244, which is 49 million metric tons lower. This is due to their drive to lower carbon emission levels, and moreover, from November they will be having winter cuts where they are supposed to be cutting 30% of their production. This will result in reduced Chinese steel exports, enabling the rest of the world to make more steel. As you know, 47 to 48% of which is from the electric arc furnace route, where graphite electrodes are used. In fact, if you look at the monthly production of China, the September was probably the lowest monthly production in 33 years, and October registered even 9% lower than September. So coming to our country, Indian crude steel production increased by 23.3% for the 9 months Jan to September this year compared to the previous year. Despite the second wave of COVID-19, Indian steel industry performed exceptionally well in the last 2-3 quarters with very high capacity utilization and record margins. According to WSA's latest short-range outlook, steel demand would expand by 4.5% in 2021, reaching 1,1855 million metric tons, up from 0.1% growth in 2020. And further, steel demand is expected to increase by 2.2% to 1,896 million metric tons in 2022. In comparison with the last quarter's results, HEG's performance this quarter was much stronger, supported by improved global demand for graphite electrodes and firming up of prices. In Q2 FY21-22, electrode prices improved for both UHP and non-UHP grades, and we expect them to keep strengthening in the following quarters. Our high-cost inventory of electrodes, as well as the needle coke made electrodes from high-cost coke, have all been liquidated. As we talk, the needle coke costs are also rising in tandem with electrode prices, and the scarcity of needle coke due to increased demand could keep supply tight for the foreseeable future. Our ongoing capacity expansion from 80,000 tons to 100,000 tons is in full swing, and we hope to be in the market with these new products by end 2022 or early 2023. This will bring our capacity under one roof to 100,000 metric tons, which is almost 40% more than the next largest plant. With our 4 decades of experience in business, we expect to be a supplier of choice to our global and Indian customers. And with this, I would now hand over the floor to our CFO, Mr. Gulshan Sakhuja, to take you through all the financial numbers, and then we'll be very happy to answer any queries that you have. Over to Gulshan.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, friends. I will now briefly take you through the company's operating and financial performance for the quarter and half year ended 30th September 2021. For the quarter ended September 2021, HEG recorded a revenue from operation of rupees 518 crore as against 414 crore in the previous quarter and 323 crores in the corresponding quarter of the last financial year. Revenue for the quarter saw an increase of 25% on Q-on-Q basis, while it witnessed an increase of 60% in comparison to the corresponding quarter of the last financial year. The upswing in the prices have led to the encouragement in the performance of the quarter. During the quarter ended 30th September 2021, The company has delivered a EBITDA including other income of rupees 167 crore in the quarter as against 94 crore. The company recorded a net profit after tax of rupees 113 crore in the quarter as against 56 crore in the previous quarter and against a loss of 34 crore in the corresponding quarter of last financial year. Further, during the quarter ended 30th September 2021, the rates and the other guidelines have been notified under the Remission of Duties and Taxes on Exported Products Scheme, while notification dated 17th of August 2021. Accordingly, the company has accrued the benefits amounting to rupees 4.85 crores under the A4 scheme on the eligible export sales for the period from Jan 1 to September 2021, out of which rupees 3.24 crores pertains to the eligible export sales for the period from Jan 1 to June 30th, 2021. The expansion plan that is increasing the capacity from 80K to 100K is going on a full swing. There was a few months delay due to COVID, and we expect the expansion project to be completed in the quarter October to December 2022, and we will be ready with the commercial production from early 2023. The company is a long-term debt-free and having a treasury size of nearly 1,500 crore as on 30th September, yielding an average return of approximately 5.5% per annum. Now we would like to address any question or queries you have in your mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on their touchtone phone now. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, please press star followed by one on your touchtone phone now. We have a first question from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Sir, if you could tell what is the capacity utilization in this quarter from that 80,000 tons?
90%.
Okay.
90% it has been for Q1 as well as similar for Q2.
Okay. So, sir, I was just doing the math because I was actually doing it 100% only. We are at about, let's say, $1,000 EBITDA type number. We have this fond memory of this industry even recording, for a few quarters in excess of $5,000. Not now, but in that golden period of 18.
Yeah.
Right. I just wanted to understand the dynamics of the industry then for recording those kinds of EBITDA and dynamics of the industry now, and do you see upside to this $1,000-$1,200 EBITDA which you're recording? And how has the business working changed? Because that was a phase where we gained on prices with stable needle coke. Then came a phase where we booked all the needle coke. So there was a phase of, operational losses. And now how in this cycle is the business being done? So, if you could help us understand this part.
Yeah, sure. Let me distinguish between those times and these times. In those times, you would recall in early 17, the preceding 6 years were actually quite bad for the industry, where margins were under pressure and there was excess supply in the market and less demand, due to which about 6 major plants had closed down in the Western world. So by the time we came to early 2017, the demand and supply of graphite industry were all quite balanced. And then came a sudden shocker from the Chinese side, where they put an immediate clampdown on the polluting steel industry, the blast furnaces, etc. And their steel exports to the rest of the world declined from a level of 120, and within 2 years they were at a level of 60 million metric tons. So that's a huge number. And just to emphasize what that number is, Indian total steel production is 112. So suddenly, 60 million metric tons going out of the market actually made the rest of the world make more steel. And rest of the world makes 48% of the steel through the electric arc furnace route. So there was a sudden spurt in the demand of graphite electrodes. That came so sudden that the graphite industry was not ready to cope up with that. So by the time everybody turned out extra production and incrementally, by the time the market was on fire, see, for a steel company, electrodes are just 3% of the cost. So nobody wants to take a risk of losing out on their steel production just for electrodes. So everybody tried to, in the later months, everybody tried to stock up more than what they needed, which is, and a company, let's say in Middle East, a company who was happy with working with 2 months of physical stock of graphite electrodes at their plant, just because that reason doesn't have any electrode plant, suddenly wanted to keep 6 months. So, and everybody stocked more and more and more. So there was a psychosis in the market, and the prices shot up like anything, from a level of let's say $2,500 to a level of $15,000 happened in a matter of just 2-3 quarters, and everybody overbought. So there was a period of correction which followed later, and then by the time before the inventories got over, the COVID thing struck. So the inventories took a little more time to liquidate. So there was so much of excess material in the supply chain that it took a while, almost 1.5 or 2 years, for that to correct. And that is what we saw in our results also, that we had 2 bad years, or rather 6 bad quarters, trying to live with those high cost inventories, revaluing them. Now the times are quite different than before. Now the times are such that we are getting a real demand from the world. After all these corrections, after there's no excess inventories of electrodes, neither with customers nor with manufacturers. Now it's a more stable regime that we are actually catering to the real demand coming in the world, whatever 2-3% electric arc furnace is going. Also in the past 2-3 years, the clamp down on carbon emissions is increasing more and more, and China still continues to be very serious about it. I mean, as I said in my opening remarks, the September monthly production of China is the lowest in 33 years. So now this is like making history, because they're truly clamping down on their production. What will be the benefit of this for the rest of the world is that the steel gets consumed domestically, so they won't have steel to export. In fact, they're discouraging export by taking out the VAT and even thinking of putting export duty on some of the grades of steel they export. So that bodes well for the rest of the world, because the rest of the world can make more steel through electric arc furnace. Also in China, they still continue to give emphasis on more and more electric arc furnace steel production, which is right now at a level of let's say 12%. And we expect in 2-3 years, 3-4 years maybe, it has to go to a level of 20%. And anyway, the scrap generation in China is also increasing. So these times are different than those times, because those came a bit too sudden. With industry, this is more stable. Now this is a much better scenario when that all the graphite companies like ours, they are all have almost reached the level of 90% capacity utilizations. So this is more stable than before, and prices are firming up quarter by quarter. That's how I look at it.
Okay. But has the industry of electrode supply now kept up with the pace of supply or additional capacity, or there is no additional capacity? So again,
in the Western world, see, right now, as I just said, that I think all of the steel and graphite industry is already at a level of 90%. Now we are doing an expansion of let's say another 20,000 tons. There is no other capacity announcement which has come by in other than China. China does keep, they have a lot of graphite companies making mainly non-UHP electrodes. So they are there, but in the supply tightness has now started to happen again among the graphite people in the Western world.
Okay. And the format of doing business, earlier we had to book needle coke for a slightly longer supply. And hence we saw also that 1 year, and even in this call you first mentioned that you exhausted the whole price needle coke. Last call also you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
So now how does this business work? We have a more back-to-back way of pricing needle coke and pricing electrode, that is a 3 monthly basis. and there is a spread always in mind. Is that the way of doing, or we still have to go the old way?
No, we are now, electrode people as well as the needle coke people are working quarter by quarter. Now, if I have a customer asking for a, let's say, a yearly price, I'm unable to give a yearly price. So I just count what I have in stock, what is in the transit, what I have booked. So I always know our cost. So we are booking business quarter by quarter, and needle coke is also available quarter by quarter. But we always know our costs. We know the spread.
Okay. Can you comment on the spread now? What was it running?
No, I mean, you can. It's not difficult for you to make some rough back of the envelope calculations, but I will not. Give in a number, please, because
no problem.
Transcripts are available, and then.
No problem, sir. But do you think that the spread will be more consistent now, unlike last time, which went through haywire?
Yes.
Because it's all back to back.
This is what I completely believe, that the spread at least in the next 2 quarters, which I can foresee, where we have an order book also, and we know what is the price of needle coke, the spread should be consistent. But again, I'm talking only 2-3 quarters ahead, not more than that.
So you see a upside to this $1,000 EBITDA, which is reported, $1,000+ EBITDA, which is reported in this quarter. Basically.
No, I will not say in dollar terms. I would rather say the margins which you are seeing are going to be, you will see similar margins in the next 2-3 quarters. Reason being that all the costs are simultaneously going up. It's not only about needle coke. It's about pitches, it's about metallurgical coke, it's about freights, fuel, everything. All the costs are going up. And having said that, if we say that we are able to have, maybe we expect similar margins, that means at least we are able to take care of all the incremental costs from all of the materials.
Okay. And so this 80,000 ton capacity, you can use it 80,000 higher than 80 or lower than 80?
See, as I said, this 80,000 capacity, once we reach 90, so this 80,000 is under certain conditions that we use. I mean, we make certain products, certain size of products. It's like an ideal thing. It's like a nameplate capacity. It's like saying a car would have an average of such and such under such and such conditions. Of course, 80,000 is the real capacity we have. But when we work with all different grades, different sizes, catering to all kinds of demand, usually 90, 92%, and that you'll probably see with every graphite company.
So you're saying about 90 to 92% of the rated capacity is what you can use?
If you can stretch it to, provided you're taking care of all the variables of the product mix. See, I have a product mix. It's not ideal to me. If I would have the right product mix, exactly the sizes I want to make. And this happens because the globally market also is like that. If there's an electric arc furnace, we are also making some sizes for the ladle furnace for our years-old customers who still want to buy the small size electrodes from us. But once you have a product mix which is ideal, of course 80 is possible.
Okay, so I'll just clarify, I got confused here. You can operate at 90 to 92% comfortably, but even 100% utilization, which is generating 80,000 ton output, is possible. That's how you're putting, right?
It is possible, but it has certain, fine print to it that I need to be making certain sizes more than the others. But if you want to cater to the market, your customers, your loyal customers who have been with you for 25, 30 years, I cannot choose to make the sizes I want to because of plant capacity.
Which means you're running at optimal capacity as of now.
We can say that 90, maybe we stretch it to 92, but that's where then those ideal situation comes in.
Perfect. Thank you very much and all the best, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. To ask a question, ladies and gentlemen, please press star 1. We have next question from the line of Sonali Salgaonkar from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
So thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is regarding China. Last quarter Q2 we saw power cuts in China. How do you see the entire situation evolving and also impact impacting our demand versus pricing in the other global countries?
See, what is happening in China, Sonali, you guys would know better than us. It's all in a state of turmoil. Now, how it impacts HEG, we'll just talk about graphite and HEG. Now, we are not supplying to China. All we are worried about, all we are keep tracking is what is China's effect to the rest of the world. Like, how much steel are they exporting? How much electrode are they exporting or importing? That's also. That's what we care about. Because we're not, per se, we don't have any customers in China as such.
Right, sir. So I was asking from the indirect impact point of view. So, for example, if the EAF production in China starts scaling down due to power cuts, how do you see the supply situation evolving in graphite electrodes?
See, right now it is actually otherwise, that we are seeing a lot of inquiries coming in from rest of the world for non-UHP. They're asking for non-UHP. So that somehow, if we talk about electrical power cuts, then their graphite industry is impacted more than the electric arc furnace industry, because graphite is very power intensive. So, in fact, it is actually working out to be the other way. So the power cuts are hurting the graphite industry also, other than the electric arc furnace.
Got it, sir. So second question is regarding the demand. How are you witnessing the demand scenario in the rest of the world? You know, especially in Europe or Middle East or US, and what is the current situation of the inventory? Are we at near normal inventory right now?
Sonali, I'll answer the second question first. We are working at actually record low levels of inventory. We do not, let me not give a number, but yeah, it's less than normal. The order book, the demand is good. We are seeing demand from US, from Europe, from Southeast Asia, virtually everywhere globally. Steel industry is doing well, and you can see their margins for steel industry in India as well as globally.
Got it.
So our inventory levels are pretty tight.
Got it. So my third question is on the pricing. I understand you do not disclose the absolute pricing, but would you be able to articulate the quantum of price increase that we had in Q2, and how much do you foresee in the coming quarters? Just an approximate estimate would also do, sir.
Yeah, that is that I can do. Let's say Q2 versus Q1. Let's say I'm just giving ballpark figures. We are talking in terms of 20% price increase. Q2 over Q1. Going forward, we are able to see 8 to 10% price increases quarter by quarter.
Correct, sir. So 8 to 10% in Q3 over Q2. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, in Q4 over Q3.
Got it, sir. Got it. Sir, and my next question is regarding the capacity utilization. You did mention 90% utilization this quarter. Yeah. Sir, how much was it last year, same quarter, and what is it currently? Even currently, we are at 90 plus as we speak in November?
Yes. We are consistently at 90% right from the last quarter of last year. So since then, we have been at 90% level. And for the next Q3 and Q4 also, we expect to be at 90%.
Got it. And how much was the utilization same quarter last year?
Same quarter last year was 70%. 74%.
Yeah, about 70%.
70% for the last year.
Got it, sir. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. To ask a question, participants may press star and 1 on your touchtone phone now. We have next question from the line of Viral Gandhi from 91. Please go ahead.
Hi, I've got 3 questions. The first is about coal. So I had read that in October, many power plants in India had less than 8 days of supply. What would the impact on your production if there is load shedding? And do you have anything in place to mitigate the risks around that?
Okay. So let me answer this for you. See, there was a lot of news everywhere that India is working with like 4 days of stock, 3 days of stock. But later, we didn't see the impact anywhere. I mean, there were no load shedding, etc. And I think Coal India has done a wonderful job by ramping up production. That is why I think the government prevailed upon Coal India to push their own domestic supplies. So far as we talk, we didn't see any kind of load shedding, not to the industry, not to residential. So, that's about it. And the way it has been proceeding since the last 1 month, the shrill of this coal shortage has gone down, and industry is working normally.
Do you get all your power from the grid, or do you have your own captive power plants?
We have captive power plants, which are also coal-based, but we're not running them now for the past 1 year. We are using all our power. We have a 70 megawatt connection, and we are taking all the power from the grid, from the state electricity board, like we say it in India.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And the second question was, I saw that the spot price for electrodes in China fell from May this year to the end of September, and then rose sharply from that point on. Do you have any thoughts on what caused that movement?
Sorry, I didn't get the last few words you said. I heard about China, that prices shooting up after September 20.
Yeah.
What is you wanted to ask?
What caused it? What caused the fall from May to September? So there was a fall in the spot price from May to around September, and then September it shot up very sharply back to the previous highs, and it was quite an interesting dynamic. And if you have any clues as to what caused that would be helpful.
I mean, really, the way Chinese have been working is demand and supply is very short term. You see more spikes from their side. So, I mean, I really don't know why they had to go down to those crazy price levels in 20s. And also, you can relate it to the steel industry capacity utilization and steel demand also. From October 20, you are seeing a consistently, rising production of steel companies and improving EBITDAs. So that is the time that April, the period you are mentioning of April to September 20, even the steel industry was not doing as good. Steel industry started to pick up only after October 20.
Okay. Great, thank you. And the last question I had was, I had read about the use of graphite electrodes in electric vehicle batteries. There is a Chinese company, Putalai, that produces this product. To what extent can production of electrodes for electric arc furnaces be converted to electric vehicle battery, or are they entirely separate markets?
These are separate markets, separate products. Now, graphite electrode, the primary use of that is in steel melting. Now, the generic is graphite. So what lithium battery they're using is an anode. In a cell, there is an anode. An anode is nothing but a graphite powder. Yes, it is graphite, but it is processed differently. An anode can be made from 2, 3, 4 precursors, like a natural mined graphite, like a pitch coke. And so these are two, sometimes people do mix the two things, that probably is the same thing, but it is actually not the same thing. But yes, generic is graphite, but that anode, that process is very different. That product is very different from the graphite electrode which are used by steel companies.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. To ask a question, participants may press star and 1 on your touchtone phone now. We have next question from the line of Manish Sonthalia from Motilal Oswal Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. 2 questions. What is the situation of our Iranian exports? And second is, if domestic production in China of steel is coming down, what are they doing with the graphite electrode capacity currently? Are they dumping it worldwide, or how is the situation out there?
See, China, the main production, as you know, 88% is from the blast furnace side, and only 12% is from the electric arc furnace side. So when they're coming down, actually, it's both blast furnace, the side is impacted more than the electric arc furnace. Now, what they're doing with their electrodes, I would say, right now, the way power cuts are going on, even their graphite electrode production is impacted.
Yeah.
About your first question, the Iran thing, no, we are not exporting anything to Iran due to ongoing sanctions from the US side. It used to be a very good market for us, but for the last two or rather 3 years, more than 3 years, there have been absolutely nil supplies to Iran. But maybe if sanctions are lifted, we might resume.
Okay. Just a follow-up on the graphite capacity in China. So with power cuts, etc., are you seeing really Chinese export of electrodes increasing over the last quarter or two?
No, no, not at all. Rather, I think I have a feeling from the market that their exports are actually coming down since the last quarter, the export of graphite electrodes. But maybe when the data emerges from China, we will have a look at it. But right now, the feel I have from the market, because I'm in touch with customers on a daily basis, so it seems to me that more inquiries are coming to our side for the sizes which were earlier supplied, for the non-UHP grade, which was earlier supplied by Chinese.
So customers are now preferring more of UHP as opposed to HP.
No, I didn't say that. It's not about UHP as a non-UHP. See, we also have a certain, in our product mix, we also make about 30% non-UHP.
Okay.
So our customers are aware that HEG also makes some non-UHP products. So even they're not getting supply from China, they turn to HEG to ask if we have some availability. That's how I get a sense that, let's say, X, Y, or Z customer who was not checking with us for the non-UHP, suddenly they start checking with us or sending inquiries, gives us an indication that probably they're unable to source it from China.
Got that. And just additional question, what is the price difference between, let's say, an HP and a UHP for similar dia? I mean, just about, not absolute numbers, but just what is the
Actually, it is it varies year after year, quarter by quarter, because both have different costs in the sense here we have to use only needle coke, and for the non-UHP we use Indian regular coke. So it depends upon their pricing, and mostly UHP pricing is driven by the EF demand in the world and what our graphite industry is doing. Non-UHP pricing is mainly driven by how much supplies are coming out of China and their pricing. So accordingly, we have to price our products. So if you ask me strictly what is the difference between the two, then it varies.
What is the difference in prices for similar diameter? So it can give some idea about the demand-supply situation, basically on the China side. If the gap has increased significantly, or is it compressed, or is it stable?
I mean, it varies from which point in time. If I have to answer this, let's say if I have to answer this today, what is the difference between UHP and non-UHP? I would say anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000.
Okay.
Something like that. But because they're two different products actually, that they are irreplaceable. I mean, you cannot use a non-UHP in place of a UHP.
No, I was just referring to the last cycle when we saw a very steep J-curve in graphite electrode prices. At that point in time, the UHP and the demand was so strong, the UHP and the non-UHP prices converged literally converged.
Literally converged, correct.
So right now, that gap is standing at $2,000.
No, I mean, it's again, which point in time? 3 months later, you ask this question, I'll give a different.
At this given point in time, currently as we speak.
Okay, if you are being so specific, then let me hazard a more accurate guess for you. Yeah, $1,000, I would say $1,500, not $1,500 to $2,000. $1,000 to $1,500.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A reminder to participants, if you wish to ask a question at this time, please press star and one on your touchtone phone now. We have next question from the line of Ravikant Aruna, an investor. Please go ahead.
Hey, hi, I'm Ravikant speaking, and I'm a retail investor. So I fairly got lesser knowledge in this area, but I've did my research a little bit. So out of the points that you spoke of, what I would like to know is, you said there are crops in China that the production due to power cuts or whatever, the production of graphite electrodes and also the steel making has reduced. And then there is, you all know that China is one of the largest producer of the graphite electrodes, right? So will that reduction in supply cause any imbalance or increase in demand in the rest of the world, which could mean to say the other regions like Europe, US, and the other Asian countries, this could propel the demand for the graphite electrodes?
See what we are seeing, I was mentioning, we are seeing inquiries coming in for non-UHP electrodes also. UHP, of course, they are coming, but non-UHP also from places like Europe. Europe has recently announced an anti-dumping duty against Chinese. That's one reason, but even in other parts of the world, we are seeing more inquiries coming for non-UHP also. Those customers were probably taking from Chinese earlier.
Okay. I think that answers my questions. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. To ask a question, participants may press star and one on their touchtone phone. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was the last question. I'd now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Gulati for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much, friends, for attending this conference call. And we hope that the times to come will be better than this, and the demand for steel and electrodes will continue to grow. We look forward to meeting you in our next conference call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of SKP Securities Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining with us, and you will now disconnect your lines.